Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess Slow Run. In this series, I started at 400 on chess.com, and I've gone up the rating ladder explaining different openings, middle game ideas, end game ideas, every step of the way. This is episode number 40, and we are breaking into 1600 territory. That's the entire introduction. Before I get into the games today, you know, if you've watched a few of these episodes, it's almost a running inside joke that I tell you about my next book. But in this video, I just want to say thank you, because I was given an update yesterday, and over 9,000 of you have pre-ordered a copy already, which is incredible. And I do believe the number to hit the New York Times bestsellers list for the second book, which would be mind-blowing, because the first one has spread all over the world and obviously is a little bit more accessible. It's for total beginners, but the number is around 20,000 before launch date in October. So I appreciate all of your support. For those of you that got it, for those of you that will consider getting it in the future as you climb up the rating ladder. And I am in the midst of writing the next book. I'm about 30% done with How to Win at Chess Master Level. I've had a great time writing these books. It's really helped me break down the material for intermediate and advanced players in a digestible fashion. And I know it can be a little bit annoying, but I'm proud of what I made. I mean, it's insane to me that there is a book series with my name on it, with 300 pages of instructive material, and every book also comes with 200-300 bonus online exercises. I put a lot of work into this stuff, all right? So I'm really proud of it, and I just wanted to say thank you to those of you that have given it a try so far, all right, and have pre-ordered the next edition. Let me just move this camera a tiny bit this way, and my monitor was like shaking in the corner of the camera. Okay. Today, I would like to play a couple of different openings, maybe something that I haven't tried yet. I mean, I've played Scandinavian, I've played a lot of different openings. Let's play a modern defense with g6, all right? Bishop g7, and we're going to see how my opponent chooses to handle this position. Okay, they're just playing, very typical, traditional stuff. We're going to play d6. I mean, I kind of doubt we get hit with a knight to g5. Against this setup, the most testing way to play would, of course, be the long castle variation with d4 and so on, and I will show you a little bit after. But this is just very solid by white. Okay, white's not even taking the full center, right? White's just sort of playing very passively. I'm considering this move b5 straight away. There's probably nothing wrong with this attack. And then I'm going to put my bishop over here and develop my knights like this. Okay, bishop e3 is a move. I have a million ways I can play this position. c5 is a reasonable move. I like this move. I think it takes some nice space. Now, if my opponent ever plays d4, they will just lose their bishop. And then I can play my knight to c6 and try to immediately control the central square d4. By the way, I can already violate some opening principles here and maybe just go knight d4 immediately. Attacking two different spots in the position. If knight takes, I take with the pawn and I fork. And if bishop takes, I'm able to grab the bishop pair. So this transformation for me, is already quite nice. My opponent's probably going to drop the knight back to e2. And now I can defend this pawn either with a pawn myself or maybe with the queen. Obviously, I think defending a pawn with a pawn is generally stronger, although I would be a little bit worried here because I've overcommitted to the dark squares. So my light squares are a little bit weak, and it's going to be a little hard to block this bishop. However, if my opponent castles here, they lose in one move to bishop h6. So that would be really nice, although you really shouldn't be castling this way anyway, because I have an open c-file. You really should castle this way. You can avoid a blunder like this even by accident. But we'll see. We'll see what my opponent ultimately chooses. Okay, they play pawn to c3, which is a very good move. Pawn to c3. Trying to make a break and, bring the knight back into the game. My options are to take this or to continue to protect my pawn, but that would result in this would result in a damaged structure in the middle. I don't really see a reason to do that, so let's just take b takes. I don't like b take. I mean, you need it to get your knight back into the game. Now, both knight f6 and knight e7 for me are good. Honestly, even this obscure central pawn break d5 is not bad. My pawn is a little bit of a backwards pawn, a pawn whose neighbors have gone too far forward and have sort of left it, but this break isn't that bad. Honestly, it's very tough to tell between knight e7 and knight f6 which move is better. Knight f6 targets the center. Knight f6 also blocks my bishop. Knight e7, I could go the other way. It's one of these moments where you think for a little bit and you end up choosing wrong anyway, so let's just go knight f6. I think with knight f6, I'm preventing my opponent from moving the d-pawn forward. Like, for example, they can play knight g3 and try to, you know, maybe do something in the middle, but it's going to be a lot harder with my knight and bishop staring at the position. Okay, I have the bishop pair. That's our major advantage here. You know, in the third book, How to Win at Chess Master Level, I talk about static versus dynamic play. Static things are, you know, things that are kind of long-term advantages in the position. And in this position, I think having the bishop pair is a long-term advantage. Having a little bit more active material is a long-term advantage. At some point, I think I do need to open the position with a move like d5. Right now, really, this could be the moment, because I'm going to lose the pawn on e5, but then I'm going to take on e4. And that certainly seems like an improvement. I can also prepare d5 by playing like rook e8. I do have to be a bit careful, but I mean, I don't see anything wrong with rook e8 and d5. And my opponent is, you know, playing without a piece, really. But it's very, very fast, so I have to speed up the... Okay, let's just play a little faster. Of course, in the normal flow of a game, you cannot think so long. I'm trying to be educational here, but I have prepared my central pawn break. You want to open the position a little bit, get rid of your worst pawn. You want to open the position for your bishops. If pawn takes, honestly, both bishop and knight takes are okay. Of course, I want to preserve my bishop to have the bishop pair and the long-range attack, but my opponent's bishop is equally strong, so it's worth trading. And the game will ultimately be decided by these 3 pawns for white. They've all moved up, and I think they will be weaknesses in the long run, because I don't see how my opponent is going to defend all of them. They maybe should have played a4 a little bit faster, should have maybe made a break in the position. But yeah, let's see what happens. I really didn't like queen e3. I don't think queen e3 was a nice improvement of the position. Let's stick with the knight. Maybe the queen will come into c5, but a queen cannot run around. Whoa, that is a terrible move. Terrible move, in my opinion. And such things are the first chapter of the master level book, which is at 1600, people are... The biggest weakness people have at this level is the wrong transformation of the game. They make a poor transformation at some moment, and it almost always comes back to bite. Now, honestly, I don't have like an immediate winning plan, but I think I'm just going to continue to make some improvements. For instance, I don't know, pawn to h6 and maybe improving my king or bringing this rook. Bishop c6 is also not such a stupid move because I prevent this move a4. I mean, bishop c6 feels a little slow, but I don't know how to meet the move a4 otherwise. I don't really want to trade. So honestly, let's just go here and shut this down. And let's see afterward if what we did was smart or not. d4 doesn't work. I take with the pawn, and I have a double attack on the queen. I mean, white at some point must play this knight move. I don't see anything else that white can do. And then I might even restrict the knight with f5. f5 is, of course, a weakening move for my king, but it's a restricting move in the center of the board. Ultimately, I think the way white is going to have to play this is to break the position open at some point. And that's just not going to work. You can't break a position open against the side with bishops. Like now I'm always thinking bishop takes knight. Get my queen out of the way, bishop takes knight. Queen c5 out of the way, bishop takes knight. I'm going to meet this move maybe with a central pawn break, but honestly, f5 and e4 is vicious. And we're really going to see the power of these bishops. I'm restricting both pawn movements here. I think bishop c6 was a nice move. I'm not infiltrating with my queen. What I'm doing here is I'm playing tennis. This is a concept I talk about in master level. It's, you know, in an even position, you just don't rush things. Ooh, look at this. This weakened this, and now maybe this or this. I don't know which one is better, but I'm going to target this. There might be d4 here, but I think I just take, although there could be rook a1 in that position. And then I would have to retreat, but I would still open the knight, open the king by taking the knight. I think ultimately that's my idea. Still, I don't think white has time to stop this. Maybe e4 was a little bit, maybe queen d6 was better. Okay, that move stopped nothing. It didn't stop a single one of my ideas. So I'm going to open the king. That's my first order of business. And now I'm going to grab the pawn. Now I am up a pawn, and white's king is shattered. So I think in the long run here, I should be winning. Rook a1, I'm going to bring the queen back to defend the pawn, and then I'm going to look over here. I don't see any better option, so let's go like this. And for the record, I could just rotate back to the A file and just protect my pawn. Okay, my opponent is doing something logical there, trying to... Is it logical? Is it logical? Okay, queen... None of these moves, unfortunately, win any material, which is just completely brutal for me. But, okay, how do we continue to make improvements here? I mean, I could just bring my rook over here, but that's so lame. That's so lame. But whatever, let's do it. So now we're gonna rotate the battle over to this side. Still, in every endgame, I have an advantage. So the first thing I'm thinking of here is to push. The second thing I'm thinking is to pin the pawn to the queen, because my rook wasn't doing much. And if something like knight c3 to improve the knight, I always have queen e6. The thing is, I always have that tempo. That's the important thing. I have this tempo-winning move. I'm also setting up a tactic in some cases, like take, and then queen e6, which could have been very nice, actually. Which will be very nice right now. Takes. Oh, there was also e4. I rushed. Okay, maybe there was e4 in that position, but what about queen e6? With an attack on two different pawns. Of course, this pawn is worth much more in the long run. But yeah, e4 was there, you know? The opponent put the rook. So you have to spot these things. You have to pick up on these things as the position is going on. Of course, I'm threatening to take this. This will always be a weakness. Losing the h-pawn is really fatal, though. Okay, we don't want to trade the queens, right? We are now 2 pawns up. We don't want to trade the queens here. If queen b3, maybe rook c6 back, then I can trade queens. Also, I still have e4, which actually I'm going to play on the next move. No matter where white goes, I'm going to go e4 because I'm going to attack the rook and threaten the pawn in front of the king. And once I get to the king, it's going to be game over. So e4 is definitely my next move, unless my opponent does something totally crazy here. E4 now is actually even worse for white because I attack the queen and I attack the rook, so that should end the game. E4 now, we need to look for some counters, like rook takes, but that shouldn't work. I would take, if the queen comes in, I have bishop f8. That should not work. So e4, but always look for these dynamic counterattacks, you know, because they could always be there. If takes, we take the rook, we take with the queen, we trade the queens, we win that endgame. I'm not going to, you know, focus on any sort of attack here. This was a very clean game, but it was a game that black was clearly the stronger player. Whereas a 1600, I'm not sure would have been able to kind of understand the dynamics of the position. I will include this, actually, I think, in the next book. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't really matter which way you take. You can take with check because it's more forcing. Actually, this could just lead to checkmate. Wait a minute. I think this is just leading to a mate. I've completely skipped the other plan. I now have queen g4. The king's going to get away. Check, and the king probably has to hang out in the middle. This looks really bad. I think I'm just going to go for the mate here because the king just can't come back. Yeah, rook e8. Oh my god, we're going to get a ladder mate in the middle of the board. Oh my goodness. They escaped. Now they're going to be able to block. And there is no mate over here. Oh, I can sack my rook, right? I can do the thing that I'm famous for. I mean, might as well, right? It's a slow run, so. But we have to be really certain we have a mate there. Let's be really certain. I mean, the king is just so open with queen f1 and the bishop cutting half the board and the rook. Have you ever seen a queen and 2 rooks stuck in a corner like this? There's got to be a mate. I mean, okay, first of all, we have a ladder mate. But if I go rook here, queen here. Okay, let's go rook here. Just don't mouse slip now. No mouse slips. King b3, queen c4. Oh my goodness. Queen c4, and then bishop to f8 mate. Look at that. Bishop to f8. Ooh. And the queen has to come save the king. Oh, there's this. Yeah. Okay, this is mate. Have you ever seen something like this? This is a public humiliation ritual for the king and his pieces. I mean, look at that position. Oh my goodness. That was utterly brutal. That was, yikes. That was a tough one. Now, look, That was an interesting one, you know? So I played the modern defense, and the truth is already knight f3, believe it or not, knight f3 is already not the best way to play for white, which is kind of crazy to say. Against the modern, the best way to play is to play knight c3, bishop, queen, long castle, launch the h-pawn. That is what the computer likes. But it's very difficult to handle if you are not a computer, and most people are not. By the time you play this Italian setup, black just gets a good game. Now, of course, I can just play knight f6 and short castle, but if the opponent allows you to take a bunch of queenside space, you kind of should. Like, already black has an advantage here, which is kind of mind-blowing. You know, we are past the level of just moving our pieces out in the beginning of the game. And then here, you know, jumping in with the knight, like I said in the beginning, it's a violation of certain principles. I could just play e6, develop this knight and castle, but I wanted to transform the game a little bit early just to show you how to do that if the opponent doesn't, you know, play the most accurate way. And then I played e5, and here I gotta give credit to my opponent. I like the move c3 a lot. c3 is a very smart move. But then to take with the b pawn instead of the knight is lunacy. Because if you take with the knight, you know, at least you gain control of d5 in some regard. I don't know, I don't like taking with the pawn. And then by the way, yeah, the computer is already saying d5 is possible, but I went knight f6. And now, yeah, now, you know, the major moment here, should we play d5? And I do have a chapter in Master Level on static versus dynamic. Static elements in a position are kind of long-term or stable things like a pawn structure or piece placement, piece activity, weaknesses in the position. Dynamic elements are spots where you can have a pawn breaks, spots where you can potentially trade a bunch of material. For instance, a static maneuver here by black would be knight to d7. You know, understanding there wouldn't be any benefit to hanging out here and transferring the knight to a more active square. A much more dynamic element is something like d5, immediately trying to open up the position, at which point I said both knight takes and bishop takes actually are reasonable moves. Now, I went rook e8 to support my pawn, and now white, sensing that I'm about to take over the game, needed to actually strike with a4. This is what the computer is suggesting here. I'm looking at the lines. a4, because this doesn't really let me get d5, as black now will have to suffer many exchanges and lose a lot of their power in the position. Now, my opponent did not play a good move. d5 is a very important pawn break. And then here, to just go for this trade, I hate it. And now, in the game, I went bishop c6, stopping a4, which I think is a very practical decision. And then obviously, you know, queen c5, taking here and getting this position. And after that, it was relatively smooth sailing, although white could have defended a little better. I gotta say, though, that was a really interesting game. It was a very interesting game. I'm gonna play another one. I might play a Catalan in this game. So d4, c4, whoa, d4, c5. Okay, very aggressive. This is a tricky line where somebody's trying to get you to take and then attack in the center. Honestly, the best move against this is just to play d5. But there's a lot of things you can do here. One thing you can do is to turn this into an e4 game, and now it's e4, c5, the Sicilian defense, with the Smith-Morra Gambit being played. But, you know, taking space is a very reasonable plan. This is what I would play, you know, as a master level player. Now black struggles to develop, and now we can just take the center like this with e4. Okay, so the opponent is playing what's called the Benoni variation, the Czech Benoni. What they want with this is to close the position completely and then start maneuvering with their pieces. You have a choice. You have a choice between taking en passant, which is not, I don't think it's like the top computer move. I think the computer likes the space. Or you just maneuver in this type of a closed position. Obviously, in a slow run, I have to ultimately decide, like, what has more value for a person to, you know, watch at home. You can passant. And now we're going to try to lock down that square. So I'm going to play knight c3. I'm just not going to let the opponent kind of get an easy game here where they get out of this bind. Knight f3 is okay. Honestly, bishop g5 could be okay, but they'll just block, so there's really no reason to pin there. You know, I can just play knight f3. I'm a 1600 rated player. I don't know the opening that well, but I've watched enough of the slow run that I know, you know, good principles. I mean, bishop g4 is just a weird move. Wasting a little bit of time here. You know, honestly, this might be a position we can already begin punishing this bad development. Like, what, is my opponent going to take my knight? Right. And so now, Sometimes when they spend so much time, you can get away with g4, and then you can even get away with e5. And this could be a real problem for black. Because after pawn takes, there's queen trade. And that could be a big issue. And knight takes, and you take the bishop. I'm not sure this is, you know, this is very dynamic. This is not static, right? Static, we said, things are more stable. Queen e7 here looks like a nice defensive try. I'll be very impressed if my opponent comes up with that move. But I would just... knight e4. I was going to say I'm going to, you know, continue to make developing moves. Like, I can play bishop b5 and I can castle very quickly. It's a cool move. Can I go queen d5? Oh my goodness, this game is getting wild. Knight takes, and then I maybe have some attacking possibilities. If I took now, they would take with the bishop. How do we continue to put the, you know, apply pressure here? Maybe a bishop f4, knight takes. Here there would be d5. They could close the position up on us. Oh, what a fascinating position we have on our hands. Yeah, like, what if I just developed a piece? Anything wrong with bishop c4? Just targeting the king over here. I think black should castle quickly. I'm not loving how I'm handling this. I'm sort of improvising instead of just, you know, playing more positional. For some reason, I also can't pre-move on this account. I think I don't have that enabled. This is the risk you run of playing a position that's a little too sharp. Okay, bishop e7 played quite quickly by black. And now maybe we can play e6. We can maybe try to trap this bishop somehow. We can also play bishop f4. We can also play bishop or queen to d5 maybe. And try to... What a wild game. I'm having a good time, but this is a little bit too crazy for me. How do we restore some order? Let's go e6. Let's just try to march it down. There might be just... No, castles doesn't work. Castles doesn't work because I take, and you can't take with a bishop because you need to guard your own knight. If knight takes knight, I'm going to throw in pawn takes pawn. So I'm going to weaken my opponent's king. This is a very tricky move to face as black, because if I get my bishop here, you're not going to castle. Really? This is... Oh, that's just a blunder. I just take and I take the knight. They left the knight hanging. Yeah, the position got a little bit too sharp, and my opponent just ended up making a mistake. And now, okay. I mean, they're responding aggressively as if, you know, as if this was all part of the plan, but somehow I doubt it. At this point, I can continue running forward, but I almost feel like I should take a step back. Oh, it is. I mean, there's some really crazy stuff here, like queen to f8 with an attack on my knight, and it's not so easy to move. Knight g5, if bishop takes, I can take with the knight, attacking the rook, and then I have to just slide my king out of the way. Oof. I also can go back to c3, attacking the d5 pawn, and after d4, knight e4. I can also go knight d2, and then castle. I found a solution. If queen f8, I can take the pawn and pin the rook to the king, which is very difficult to spot from a distance. And even then, king h8 is completely playable, and, you know, the game goes on. But at least I can jump into f5. Bishop h4 is curious. Now, the autopilot move here is to take without even thinking, because the less pieces the opponent has, the better, right? So queen will take. Now, I have a question. Why can I not just play... I don't want to castle, but why can't I just take this pawn? My king is in the middle, but I'm up a bishop. Like, ultimately, that matters more. And I can hide on f1, queen e7 check, but I just block. I just block, and then I'm castling this way, and even this way now that the queen left, and the game's just over. And this is an exercise in converting a winning position. You know, because you have to shut down the counterplay. Black needs to play knight c3, rook d8 here, but it's just too late. It is just too late. I'm going to long castle. You're going to play rook d8, and I'm going to take this pawn. And, okay, queen c5. Everything is defended. There are no checks. I'm up 5 points of material. And now I'm actually guaranteed a trade. So no matter where you move, I'm either going to trade queens or trade rooks. If you're playing with black, yeah, you probably don't want to trade the queens. This would be a terrible decision. But I don't even think it matters, to be honest. Oh, that's so bad. No. I mean, it's just a matter of principle. You can never trade the queens there, because even if you lose, at least you have your most powerful piece. Like, yeah, now we're going to go knight f5, and if pawn to g6, we take. One of the most common blunders in all of chess. You attack a knight, and then it takes something you used to be protecting. That's a move. Bishop e3. I can even take. I'm up so much material, it doesn't matter if I give away a knight and a bishop for a rook. I'm up so much material, it doesn't even matter if I give away a knight and a bishop for a rook. Normally, something like this is maybe not worth going for. Black can also play rook takes f5 here, take my knight, and then take. But actually, I can take the pawn because the rook stays hanging. I mean, when you're up 4 pawns, you can basically get away with anything on the chessboard, you know? A rook and 6 pawns versus knight and 2 pawns just cannot keep up. Okay, that's a nice attempt. That's a nice move, yeah. I can move the knight, but I also have this. So my bishop moves, attacks their knight, and I re-threaten knight h6. So now I'm guaranteed some trades. Just trying to expand your horizons with, you know, coming up with some cool moves in a situation like this. But the truth is you are up so much. You know. And yeah, that's what we were planning. Okay, the opponent's not resigning, which is fine. We will just push a pawn. And now we will fork the king and the knight. You have to be vicious, and you have to have a killer instinct. And now we will make a queen, and we will win the game. That's just the... Maybe black is just going to resign. Okay, we're going to take. We're going to... We don't... I mean, you don't even really have to think anymore. You just plant your rook. Okay. So we won this one. Now, this one was very different than the previous game. This game got really wild really early. The opening that my opponent chose is actually a very nice one. It's called the Czech Benoni, and I have a course on this. I know I have a course on like everything. But the idea here is for black to quickly trade the dark squared bishop. So for example, most people here play knight f3, and then black will play something like bishop e7 and knight c3, and black will play something like bishop g4. And this is really curious, because basically the idea is to go take, and bishop g5. And this is one of the benefits of playing an opening where you try to implement a strategy in a closed position. In a closed position, most people will play the same way. They will, because, you know, they're just thinking develop the pieces. As you get stronger, you know, you're going to be like, oh, Czech Benoni. What do I implement against the Czech Benoni? But usually the way chess works is you see an opening for the first time, you get destroyed in it or thoroughly outplayed, you know, and then you learn. I decided to take because I, first of all, never forget en passant, right? And then we develop, and now black is equal. I mean, black, I didn't challenge black anywhere near the way that you should in this position, but bishop g4 is just a terrible move. Like here you have to play bishop e7, knight c6, and castle, and then slowly prepare this. This is also, again, a backwards pawn, right? And what I did here is I very emphatically pushed black backwards. Already, actually, I can play e5. I don't even need to play g4. It's very interesting. I just autopiloted like this. But actually, e5 now is even more vicious. Ah, it's because I guarantee that position. It's because I guarantee take, and now I play g4. And now we get the position that I wanted. And this position is already plus 2.6. Can you believe it? Why? King is in the middle. A lot of pressure. You're going to put the bishop on this monster diagonal, develop both bishops, castle, rooks are going to come into the middle. Black's king has no pawns to protect him, so black's king is very weak. What happened in the game is I did all this, and my opponent actually found a nice counter, knight to e4. Knight e4 was a smart move here. And then I think bishop e7 here was also quite a smart move by the opponent. And then e6, and castling was just bad. So I guess my opponent here castled, and then autopiloted recaptured. What's amazing about this is that this is the best move. And then this is fine. And then here, like, the best move, according to the computer, is to take the pawn, which I don't know. I don't know how practical this is to suffer with this bishop. And then what Stockfish wants is takes, knight, the only move, a6. Otherwise, white is much better. And then you play knight c7 and remove the bishop. That's when I put it on the board, it's kind of obvious, but like, nope, you don't come up with these things on the fly in the game. I mean, I really thought like I'm applying some good pressure here to the, to the black position, but um, yeah, you know. Anyway, I think that was cool and obviously okay. I mean, you blunder a piece, and then after that we converted it. Okay, next game. I played the modern. Maybe I'll play it again. Why not? Or the French, or the Pierts. There's so many openings. I can play or the Alekhine defense. Let's play the modern. Two times, whatever. You know, that way you learn more. Are we gonna get scholars mated? Is that what's happening? You're joking. At 1600? Wow. Okay. Really? Well, now d4 is really weak. Knight c3. I can play this similar to how I played the first game of the episode, which was a6 followed by c5, b5, c5. But I kind of want to go here because I'm threatening knight e5. I'm not just threatening knight d4, which my opponent, I win the game. Oh my god, I just win. They can't We just beat a 1600 rated player in 5 moves. I mean, I gotta say, that's kind of what you get for scholars mating at this level. 1600? Really? Goodness me. All right, we're just up a bishop now. And now I'm gonna be completely ruthless. I mean, I am taking personal offense to what has just transpired. Let's just continue developing here and then play d5 or d6. It doesn't really matter. I think white is now going to just play really fast. I think they're going to get really tilted here and play super quickly. If white wants to attack me, they probably should play queen h4 and bishop h6, which I somehow, given the quality of their opening, I sort of doubt that they play. Okay, obviously putting a pawn in the middle isn't bad. And also d4 is a real issue. d4 is a problem. Now knight takes. Now we're going to trade everything. I'm trading everything. I'm going to take the bishop. It's a better piece. But don't blunder. Don't blunder. It's again this. Don't blunder that short castle here. And now we're super chilling. Now we're super chilling. And, you know, I want to get my other bishop out, so I might have to play rook b8 or c6, e5, f5. If I'm playing with white, I'm still going to try to attack here, although I don't really know how. I don't want to block my bishop. I don't want to play e5. But honestly, e5 and knight c6 looks really good. Just e5, knight c6, bishop e6, knight into d4. Yeah. Now, the win for me here would be to just trade the queens, because then I'll never get mated. And then, obviously, you should be strong enough at 1600 to win this game really with no problems. So, let's go here and bait this move, and then go here and take it immediately. Okay, it didn't even work. Didn't even work. Knight d4 I could have also played, but I wanted to finish my development. Just ruthless here. Knight d5, snap it off, knight d4, multiple trades. Without the pieces on the board, white is not going to be able to accomplish anything here. Probably knight d4 was more accurate. Knight d4. And now if knight takes, actually it's queen takes. Oh, I win by force! Unless they go queen f... No, yeah, I just win. Oh my... Wow. Even if they don't take my knight, I take their knight, because they have to move the queen, and then when the queen goes there, queen d4. This move accidentally blunders this knight completely because of this. And now I just take with the queen, and... But it didn't even matter. Wow, yeah, the chess gods really worked against my opponent in this game. Just completely, ruthlessly won this game. Just b5. Just take all the pawns off the board. Don't leave the opponent with anything. Go after all the... Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What is going on? f5. Trade the queen. I mean, this was a crazy game. I mean, it's nuts. I play these 1500s that are like playing, you know, long positional games, and then a 1600 tries to scholars mate me. It's just so weird. The ELO ladder is just so fascinating nowadays. Now you can trade the queens and win an endgame. Okay, I mean, if you want to trade queens, fine. I was going to say we go for some sort of attack. Okay, that was a very weird and very underwhelming game. But don't get scholars mated. I mean, I don't really know what to say. Let's just continue. I don't know what to say. All right, e4. Let's play another modern. Let's play a real one this time. Okay, we have an opponent playing a normal thing. Okay, d6. This is at least a little bit better than the previous version. Okay, so I've set up the same way. Now I'm expecting an opponent's move here. I mean, most people here go bishop c4. And then you can immediately strike with b5. There's nothing wrong with b5. Bishop d5, you can just attack it. As we saw in that first game of the video, doing this to block this bishop completely is actually very reasonable. And if white tries to make a pawn trade with you, you can lock the position. So one thing about the modern is you have the sniper bishops at the center, and then you develop the knights. You often use the c-pawn, even if not right away. You support the advancement of the c-pawn. I mean, knight d7 can't be bad. The other thing is we don't know where white is castling yet. And that's very important. Depending on where white castles, we will obviously launch our forces. Okay, so short castle, completely reasonable. Let's put our knights back here. We're actually almost playing a hippo setup. This would be a hippo. So it's kind of a hippo. And in the hippo, our pawns are like our spikes, and our position is like a slinky or like a slingshot. Nah, probably more like a slingshot. You know, where you kind of like have a resistance and then it springs forward. At some point, white will run out of patience. And both of those moves come with drawbacks. This move walls out the bishop forever. This move allows knight c5 and actually allows our position to, you know, blossom very quickly. I think castling is fine. Another very useful move in the hippo is h6. And then a lot of master level players, they don't even play castle. They play king f8, king like this. But okay, that's a little stupid. So we castle and we play king h7, always defending our h6 pawn. And now we just don't allow the opponent to get close. So a4, b4, and we can win this pawn in the middle all the time. King h7 supports everything. Like, okay, I can see queen d2 being played here by white because they think they're so sophisticated. There we go. There we go. There's the move. It has happened. So now what? Both options are okay. Taking is okay because I think at the end of the day, it leaves white with a weakness. And e5 is okay, but let's take. So now if white takes with a knight, right, to try to trade everything, at the end of the day, we have maybe something over here. I think knight d5 is probably the better move, honestly, of all the options that white has. And now I'm looking at this knight c5 idea. Ooh, that I don't like. That blocks the bishop, blocks the knight, and immediately gives me access to knight f5. And I think this for me is good. A knight for bishop trade with basically no strings attached must be good. And then knight c5 is going to attack the bishop. Look what I told you. The position just comes alive with an energy, you know? Okay. I don't see any reason not to do that. I get it. They're trying to do this. But now I make another improvement to the position with knight to c5 going for the other bishop. So just like that, one pawn move and the floodgates opened. And this bishop on a2 is not going to scare anybody. Now I'm looking at queen e7. I'm also looking at rook e8, but I like queen e7 followed by rook e8, and this rook can stay back because I don't know if he needs to defend this. And b4 would run into knight e4, or even knight back to d7, to be honest. Now I have to identify which of these pieces I want to play against. I think this bishop is... Okay, that move just loses a pawn. Is there a trick here to pin the knight? The trick doesn't even work because knight takes... I can at least take this. So this just doesn't work at all. Knight takes, queen takes. Is my queen trapped? Kind of. Queen f5. This is how you have to calculate. Queen f5, there's a discovered attack possibility, like knight e5, but then I move my queen. I don't get it. Is my queen trapped? Is my queen trapped? It looks trapped, but it's not trapped. It's not trapped. I don't think it's trapped. First of all, no, I can't go to a4. I have to go here. It's very important I calculated this because I could have just had a trapped queen. You know, I could have just had a trapped queen here. I have a very cool trick. Knight to d4. I have a very cool trick. Queen g5. Very unnecessary to play such a trick. Queen takes queen, bishop takes knight check. And then the queen is still hanging. But the queen can go back and sacrifice itself so that at least the bishop is received for the queen. Yeah. It's important that this was calculated. Okay, knight d4 is being considered. Ooh, the idea is also bishop b1. But bishop b1 that actually doesn't work because I win this pawn. So now I have to make a smart move. Easier said than done. How do you make a smart move in chess? Let's trade rooks. I mean, I'm winning. It can't be bad. I also maybe could have left further with the queen, but whatever. We did it like this. Now bishop here would simply relinquish this pawn and completely lose the game. Knight to e5 is cool. It's a nice move. But there is no threat. Knight e5, I just move my queen. Like, even to c8. I don't see... Why is this bad? Is it bad? I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. Okay, knight c6 is solid by my opponent. It's pretty good. But I just don't have to blunder a fork, and I think I will be fine. Then maybe I take the rook. Knight h4. Wow. Wow. Okay, this is serious business now. This is getting much more serious than it was. So if I take, and they take, I think that's fine for me. If I take, and they play knight h6, and then I play king h7, I'm going to win that. So I think I'm going to take this first. Let's get rid of the rook. One less piece is easier to defend against. Queen takes. So this pawn is no longer hanging, which means I think f5 now becomes a little bit better for me. Nice. And with this move, I kick the knight out of the position. So now the knight has to go somewhere here. I think this is a very important move because there's no knight f6. Active defending. Then I put something on the e-file. Then I activate my pieces. And once the knight is back, I think I'm in very good shape. Now both of our bishops kind of suck, but his sucks more. I didn't see that move, and I feel like it's a smart move. Okay. Queen e8 or rook e8? Very tough decision. I think the rook should be back here, but then he's going to go queen g3. Let's go queen e8. Queen e8. There is queen e6 check, which is just like, I think queen e6 is a bit above the pay grade here, but it could be played. Actually, I don't think it's that good. The idea is to get the pawn moving, but then I can just wall out the bishop from the defense. Queen e6 is a cool move, but I don't think it's very strong. Man, these... Yo, queen g3 played anyway, wow. f4 I like, bishop e5 is kind of cool. I can also just play king h7, but I don't like that I feel like I'm slowing down here with my initiative. f4, rook takes. Well, there's no tactic there. I don't even know what I'm calculating. Bishop e5, here, king up. Something back to f6. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's put a sustained pressure on the opponent to continue to make decisions. Queen here, we're not going to take this. We don't want to give that away. I think I'm just going to play king h7 or king g7. I don't actually know which one is better. King g7 is a little closer to the center, but I could be susceptible to a check in the future on e6 from the knight. Let's just go king g7. Now, rook e1 is playable. I would probably slide my queen out of the way. c4 I don't like. First of all, there's this. Second of all, it just doesn't feel in the spirit of the position. So I'm a little skeptical about taking this pawn. But is there even a refutation for this move? Okay, I'm going to be very prudent. I'm just going to play queen d8 to try to trade the queens, because with no queen, I will have to stress a lot less. But bishop b2 was probably the best move. I just didn't feel so comfortable allowing the rook to attack my queen, so I want to shut down all the shenanigans. All the shenanigans. We're going to go for long-term static play here. So my opponent defends, which makes sense. And now if I bishop d4 is okay, so don't I have queen f6 now? And now we threaten this. Now we threaten this. They might play rook b1 and completely miss this move. They might play knight f3, and now they will lose that pawn. Is there a queen to a freaking 7? Is there this? I don't know what these moves are doing. Like, I have no clue what my opponent's doing anymore. I have completely and utterly lost the plot. I don't know. And if I can get a queen trade, I will be very happy. So pawn takes, I'm going to trade the queens instantly. I'm going to trade the queens without even thinking. I'm more worried about like king h1 or knight f3 to like avoid the queen trade and keep the queens on the board. That's not going to work. It was a creative move. Going for this. It's not going to work. We trade the queens and we win. Very prudent, shutting down the opponent's play. Knight to f2. And now, I mean, we can probably play rook e8 to go to e2. If I get rook e2, I'm trading every piece. That's just a fork, no? That's just a fork. It wasn't even about the pin. The loose pieces dropping off. Shout out to Danya. That was a nice endgame grind. These 1600s, man, they're tricky. They are tricky. And we win another game. That was nice. 145-0. Folks, everything that I have covered in today's video, pawn structure, piece play, transformation, statics and dynamics. You know, statics being the long-term anchors of your position, dynamics being the spots in the position where you can change the pawn structure, change some pawns, knights, bishops, king safety, weaknesses. All of this is the stuff that is going to take you beyond 16, 17, 1800 into that 2000 level category. I made a move toward the end here, queen to d8. And yes, indeed, taking this pawn, is the move by the computer. And this move is not as good, but it's still better, for black. I want you to get used to shutting down your opponent's ideas. In this game, I thought it was very interesting how here I was sort of saying that the second that white loses their patience and makes a break, 1600s make poor transformations in the game. That's what they do. That is their biggest weakness by far. It's chapter 1 of Master Level, which comes out in 2 years. But in this book, I talk about pawn structures and understanding play from the opening based on pawn structures and piece positioning. And I talk about, pawn play and piece play. And this is an example of piece play. Knight to f5, trade, and knight c5, and then queen e7, and calculating the short variation, making sure you see your queen's not trapped, right? And then I played rook e8, and I could have, went queen d7, etc. But I think this was a very nice video. Let me know your feedback, as always, in the comments. Would absolutely love for you to get this signed. There are still a couple hundred copies left. You can pre-order it. I know shipping is expensive to Europe and to other parts of the world. It's now available in Australia. So if you're in Australia and you want a signed copy, I think there's like 1,000 or 1,500 or something like that. Link is always in the description. And in the next few episodes, we will climb to 1,700. Get out of here.